What if one of the feelings you trust the least is actually one of the most intelligent systems keeping you alive? What if fear is not a flaw in human design, but a masterpiece of ancient biological engineering? And what if learning to understand it changes the way you think about anxiety, danger, and even yourself? Fear has a bad reputation. We talk about it as weakness, as hesitation, as overthinking, as the force that stops people from becoming who they could be. But biologically, fear did not evolve to ruin your life. It evolved to protect it. Long before language, long before civilization, long before humans could build walls or write laws, living organisms needed a way to detect threat and react fast enough to survive. In that sense, fear is not a modern inconvenience. It is one of the oldest intelligence systems in the body, a fast, adaptive survival process that identifies danger, reallocates resources, sharpens attention, prepares muscles, changes breathing, and pushes the organism toward the response most likely to preserve life. Modern neuroscience shows that this system is not just panic. It involves coordinated circuits that include the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the brainstem, and regions such as the periaqueductal gray, which helps organize defensive behaviors like freezing, escape, and fight responses. The body is not randomly falling apart in fear. It is reorganizing itself around a single priority: survival. Heart rate changes, blood flow shifts, stress hormones rise, perception narrows. Memory systems mark the moment as important. The organism becomes temporarily less balanced in order to become more effective. A classic line of research that helped reveal this came from fear conditioning studies. In both animals and humans, brains learn to connect neutral cues with danger. A sound, a place, a face, a smell, a pattern, once linked to threat, can begin triggering defensive responses before conscious thought fully catches up. That may sound primitive, but it is also incredibly efficient. If every danger required slow reasoning, many organisms would die while thinking about it. Fear solves that by building a prediction system. It does not wait for certainty, it acts on probability. This is the first important idea. Fear is not merely a reaction. It is a forecasting tool. Your fearful system is constantly asking a brutal question: what is the cost of being wrong? If the grass moves and it is only wind, a false alarm wastes energy. But if the grass moves and there is a predator, hesitation can be fatal. Evolution strongly favors systems that sometimes overreact, rather than systems that underreact when the stakes are life or death. In other words, fear can look irrational from the perspective of comfort, while being deeply rational from the perspective of survival. It is biased toward caution because caution was often the winning strategy. The second idea is that fear is a compression system. Reality is too complex for the conscious mind to analyze in real time, so the brain uses shortcuts. It builds fast associations, emotional tags, and pattern libraries. Fear helps compress huge amounts of uncertainty into simple commands. Stop, look, freeze, move, remember this. Think of it like a survival interface. It is not giving you a full philosophical explanation of the world. It is giving you the fastest usable map. That map is imperfect, but speed matters. Fear is less like a scientist writing a report and more like an emergency operating system switching your body into protective mode. The third idea is that fear is intelligent precisely because it recruits the whole body. We often imagine intelligence as something abstract and cerebral, but fear is embodied intelligence. It changes posture, breathing, muscle tone, digestion, attention, eye movements, hormonal balance, and readiness for action. The body becomes part of the thinking process. You do not simply feel afraid in your mind. Your entire organism becomes a threat detection and response platform. In that sense, fear is one of the clearest examples that the body does not merely serve the brain. The body participates in cognition. It helps compute what matters now. The fourth idea is that fear is also a memory architect. Moments of danger tend to become memorable because the brain marks them as relevant to future survival. Fear does not just protect you in the present. It tries to protect your future self by updating internal models. Which road felt unsafe? Which tone of voice signaled trouble? Which context predicted pain? This is why fear is so sticky. It is trying to generalize from limited data. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes it becomes excessive. But the logic underneath it is not madness. The logic is, never pay twice for the same dangerous lesson. And that leads to the fifth idea. Fear is smart, but not always accurate. A system optimized for survival is not the same as a system optimized for truth, peace, or happiness. Fear learns fast, but it can also generalize too broadly. A single painful event can make unrelated situations feel dangerous. A useful protective bias can become chronic anxiety. A brilliant emergency system can become exhausting if it never fully powers down. This does not mean fear is broken. It means a system built for urgent defense can become mismatched to modern environments filled with social pressure, abstract threats, constant news, and imagined futures. The same machinery that once helped avoid predators can now overfire in meetings, messages, memories, and uncertainty. So if fear is one of the smartest systems in your body, what follows from that? First, fear may deserve interpretation before suppression. Instead of instantly asking, "How do I get rid of this feeling?" the better question may be, "What is this system trying to protect?" That does not mean fear is always right. It means it is often meaningful. Second, fear may reveal values. We fear losing what matters: status, attachment, safety, identity, control, future. The shape of your fear often points toward the shape of your commitments. Third, fear may be a signal of adaptation under uncertainty. When reality becomes unstable, fear rises because prediction becomes harder. In that sense, fear is not always evidence of fragility. Sometimes it is evidence that your system is honestly registering complexity. Fourth, many personal limitations may not come from laziness or lack of willpower, but from protective systems operating in the background. A person may call themselves unmotivated when their body is actually unconvinced that action is safe. And fifth, the practical implication: healing may begin not when you declare war on fear, but when you upgrade your relationship to it. Not obedience, not repression, dialogue, training, calibration, teaching the system the difference between discomfort and danger, between memory and present reality, between imagined catastrophe and actual threat. Fear may become less destructive the moment it is treated less like an enemy and more like an ancient bodyguard with outdated information. This changes something fundamental. Because once you stop viewing fear as proof of weakness, you can start seeing it as data, sometimes useful, sometimes distorted, but rarely meaningless. And maybe that is the deeper point. Fear is not just the sensation of wanting to run. It is an intelligent survival language written into flesh, memory, attention, and time. A language older than reason, faster than speech, and powerful enough to move the entire body in an instant. The tragedy is not that humans feel fear. The tragedy is that we are often never taught how to read it. So what if fear is one of the smartest systems in your body? Then perhaps courage is not the absence of fear at all. Perhaps courage is what happens when intelligence learns to listen to older intelligence without surrendering to it. Lucid order. Question everything.